Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to have some Division 20 online ranked gameplay using the highly requested Islam Makhachev. And now, as you can see from the comments that are going to be on screen, just want to give a quick shout out to Spiritual Kelp, Sobmar and Mangus Allen for asking for this showcase right here. Now, Islam is, an extremely dominant force when he's in the octagon. I mean, he's incredibly hard puzzle to be matched up with and a very big problem to deal with, and you've only really seen him be tested a couple times by obviously Volkanovski and the man that we're facing here, and yeah, he is absolutely phenomenal, but a lot of people do have difficulty when trying to use Islam on the game, and I feel like that's because the lightweight division is pretty stacked. You've got the Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor players who are incredibly hard to deal with just for a variety of reasons. You've got the Justin Gaethjes and the Volkanovskis. You've got the really technical RDA players, and then obviously you've got the strong grapplers as well. You've got Arman, who we're coming up against here. You've got Charles Oliveira. You've got Tony Ferguson. You've got a lot of options in this division. And now Islam stat-wise is definitely very broken. I remember when he first got his update and his stand-up was improved massively. I remember that was quite a questionable upgrade at the time when looking at his stand-up, but against Volkanovski obviously displayed that his stand-up is to a very good degree, hanging in there with Volk, who's a very technical striker, and it's just people stray away from what he's really good at, and it's exactly what you've got to do in this video, which is you've got to grapple. There's no other option really. You can stand, you can have success standing, but why limit yourself to standing when you know that if you get someone to the ground, you're going to be absolutely to be able to dominate them, and you don't really need to be worried, especially if you're on top. If you're on the bottom, there's a bit more of a worry, especially if you've got someone else that's dominant up above you, like if you're coming up against a Habib or a Charles Oliveira or a Benil Dariush who's on top of you and looking to submit you. I can see why you may have complications, and you may be in a bit of a worse for wear position, but his submission defense is very good. He's got obviously the wrestling reversals, which come in key, and he's got very good cardio, and they're the three things I believe you need to be a very dominant force on the ground. You need to have stamina, you need to be able to outlast your opponents, and by outlasting them you're going to give yourself such a huge advantage, because you're going to be able to get those easy transitions to half guard, to side control. When you posture up, you're going to get those free transitions, and you're going to be able to deny their transitions a bit easier, because they're not going to be able to fake as many times. And also you're going to have the ability to try and transition some more, because if you get denied once or twice, it's not the biggest deal, because you are still going to have a pretty distinct stamina advantage. And you can see here that no matter how many times this fighter has gone onto the feet, I've instantly shot for a takedown, and looked to get it back on the ground instantaneously, because there is no point me being on the feet when I don't need to be. If they stuff the first takedown, that's fine. You can chain wrestle, look to get their back, and once you get their back, look to get them down. You saw that I tried to do that here in this gameplay, and it was just very good denials from my opponent. But as soon as we reset, I instantly shot for the takedown again, and obviously ended up getting the takedown, now finishing in a very strong position in half guard, fired some strikes, and as you can see by the stats there, very dominant round. And coming into the second, it's exactly what we're going to look to do more of. And the one thing with Islam that I really like is obviously he's incredibly dominant on the ground. He's got all the avenues you need to get the takedowns. He can get a variety of them: single, double, power takedowns, cage takedowns, trips in the clinch, which is something that needs to be utilised when you're using Islam, is his ability in the clinch. Obviously, when you do get them to the ground, you can look for ground and pound, but his submissions are very good, and that's something that I do try utilize a lot in my videos, and everyone knows this, the submissions. But you can see here the work that I did on the ground in the first round has enabled me to soften him up enough to get the stuns on the feet. And Islam has got good stand up, like I was saying, so it's not like, if you are forced to stay on the feet, you're going to be rendered useless. However, with the caliber of opponents you're going to be facing, especially in the higher divisions, and with the fighters they can look to use, like the Conor McGregors, the Dustin Poiriers, the Justin Gaethjes, you are going to be hindered in that department, because the stand-up level is just going to be completely different, and that's something that you've really got to take in mind. As you see here, coming up against the Volkanovski, who obviously gave Islam a very hard fight, and instantly what I look to do is get Volkanovski on his back. I want to look to absolutely drain his stamina, and from that point look to potentially get a submission finish. But I want to try to be patient. If the opportunity presents itself, I will look to capitalize on it, but it's always going to be position over submission. You can see here raining down some strikes, waiting, and he was moving his head a lot, and I was trying to get into side control. Didn't trigger it in time, but looked to posture up again and looked to get into side control, because this is my most dominant position. It's the position I have the most success in, and Islam obviously does have the Kimura from this position, which is key. Has the crucifix, which is another extremely strong position, especially if you get the deniers. And you can see here that for round one, which is normally my slower round, it's the round where I'm trying to really analyse and figure out what my opponent's trying to do. A very good start to round one here. So in the crucifix, looking to submit him here, but Volkanovski is doing a very good job at the moment in escaping this submission, which is kind of ridiculous when you look at it. He has no stamina. I'm using someone with 98 submissions, I believe, or 99, probably 98 now that I'm thinking about it. And I struggled to even get this close. And you can see towards the end it's getting closer and closer, but good job there for Volkanovski to survive, and somehow, some way flips this into getting my back, which I tried to rotate the position to get his back, but good job nonetheless from Volkanovski here. Now he's on my back, and questionably goes back to my side. Obviously deny it. I don't think he meant to do that. I don't know what he was trying to go for there. See that he has no stamina, so I reverse the position and I go straight for the bulldog choke. So you see here that I'm very offensive with my submissions here, and normally it is position over submission, but especially considering it's the first round when obviously everyone's got more stamina. But you can see that every time that I've tried to go for a submission, Volkanovski's had little to no stamina, and those are the good submission attempts. They're exactly what you want as a grappler. You don't want to be going for submissions when they've got full stamina and you're just going to waste your own, and there's no point in doing it. You can see here I wasn't successful with that submission, go straight in for another one, and what this is doing is just really tiring Volkanovski. These denying all these submissions is incredibly hard, and it also shows Volkanovski that when the fight does go to the ground, this is exactly what I'm going to be looking for, and you may be able to fend off the first 1, 2, 3 submissions, but this is just round 1. When you get to round 3, 4, 5, when you get into those championship rounds, the deep waters, will you be able to stay afloat, or will you sink because of the vast amount of pressure that I'm going to be applying with Islam Makhachev? And that's exactly what we've got to look to do. And look at this, round 2, look at my stamina, absolutely perfect. This is exactly where you want your stamina to be, because I can now chain wrestle, which you see shoot here, good takedown defense. That's not going to deter me. Good shots to the body, very good job there in the clinch from Volkanovski. But like I said, that's not going to off-put me. I'm going to still look to implement my game plan, still look to be successful. Again, shoot for a takedown. I stopped myself there because I didn't feel like I was going to get it. Good roundhouse to the body, and again, I'm really looking to zap away at that body because I want to drain the stamina. Just so it's easy when I do get him to the ground, and I already know that when it comes to being on the ground I have a distinct advantage, not even just stat wise but skill wise. I felt like I was in a very good position, felt very dominant. Yes, he did deny the submissions, done a very good job of getting out of them, but like I said, when he gets to the deeper rounds, when he gets to those championship rounds, will he have the ability to fend off the vast amount of submission attempts that I'm going to throw at him? And you can see really utilising the clinch here, similar to how Charles Oliveira utilises the clinch, where he clinches and then throws those knees right to the midsection to zap away his opponent's stamina. And off of that, I'm just going to get him thinking, and then potentially I can throw some knees to the head or elbows to the head, and then eventually when he starts blocking high, I can go low and go for a little sweep and get him on his back. But you can see here, shot for a takedown, and it was a good takedown attempt. It was the same way I went earlier where he denied, which was a bit risky. Normally I don't tend to do that, but it was a successful attempt nonetheless, and now we're back into side control, which is extreme dominant position, and we're going to whittle away and work away, take away his head health, deny as many transitions as possible. And you can see here, get straight into the crucifix, which again, extremely dominant position. He doesn't want to be here because I can take away the stamina and I can absolutely rinse his head health, which is exactly what I'm going to look to do. But I sort of learned off round one that obviously Volkanovski's submission defense was very, very good. So it's going to be pivotal to really work away at his stamina, work away at the head health, get him guessing, get him thinking. And even if I can't get him away with a submission, I can definitely look to get him out of there with ground and pound. And that's another utility you can look to explore with Islam, which I like, is that his ground and pound is just as good as submission, so you're not really forced to go one avenue or the other. A lot of the times with wrestlers, you're forced to ground and pound because their submissions aren't the greatest, and a lot of time with jiu-jitsu guys, you're forced to submit because, again, their ground and pound isn't going to be the greatest. So it's one or the other, but Islam Makhachev showing that Samba has both, which is pretty cool, and it allows for big skill differences on the ground because you're not limited to one aspect or the other. You can see I posture up here, try and rain down some strikes, but a good job for him to move away. But again, another extremely dominant round, and this is exactly how you have to use Islam Makhachev. There is no other avenue you should be exploring other than taking your opponent down and looking to absolutely dominate them at every minute you can. At every feasible opportunity, you should be looking to get them to the ground and tearing them apart. And that's exactly what I look to do. So, done a very good job, obviously, on the ground. On the feet, there is a difference. Volkanovski feels a lot faster. He even feels a bit more powerful, which stat-wise, I don't know if that really checks up or adds up. One thing Volkanovski hasn't been able to do successfully, obviously, is defend the takedowns at a good enough rate, as I look for the clinch there. And also not being able to implement the use of leg kicks, which definitely could slow me down. Now, if you're in Volkanovski's position, you should be throwing a lot of strikes up the middle, which you can see he's made that adjustment. He's throwing those uppercuts, but right now the health stats are really not in his favour. Get the takedown there, which was very clean. And here I was waiting for him to transition rather than transitioning myself. But yeah, he got the get up there, which is a bit disappointing because we was really utilising the clinch the round before to set up the takedown, which we were able to do. And based off of that mishap there, end up with 2 foul takedown attempts, which again, very good work from Volkanovski. But I'm not going to let this deter me. You can see this is the adjustments where you can see that if a player's good, he started mixing up the shots and throwing shots up the middle, which is definitely going to deter someone that's looking for takedowns, because if you go into a knee, an uppercut, front kick, you could easily get knocked out. So he's trying to force me to stand with him at the moment. Again, clinch, look for the takedown because he's expecting the strikes, and instantly I try to go stack guard. And I've got the stamina advantage there, so I do manage to get it and just rain down some strikes. And Islam's ground and pound is phenomenal. He pulls me into his closed guards, and this is exactly where we want to be. We're back on the ground. This is where we've got the advantage. So it's just about being patient and waiting for the opportunity to come. So try to posture up there. He tries to sweep round and get my back, which evidently is unsuccessful. And I'm going to posture up here and look to rain down some strikes. As you can see, because of the stamina advantage, was able to transition to top mount pretty freely, which is always a good transition to get, and just keep him guessing because he knows that I want to get to side control, and that's where I do the best work. So by transitioning into top mount, it gives him a different read and different look. You can see faking the submission attempts there just to get him guessing, and this is exactly what you've got to do. Just roll with the positions, keep a dominant position, and mix in your transitions very well. Keep him guessing. You're going to submit, you're going to look to pass, because ultimately that's what's going to keep you on the ground longer and make you a more difficult opponent to face. Because you've got to think it in the way that if you're doing the same transitions over and over and over, it's going to be very easy for your opponent to start making those reads and those little adjustments, getting the fight back onto the feet. And like I said, when you're using Islam, you don't want the fight to be on the feet. You want the fight to be on the ground. This is not to take away from his stand-up, because he does have good stand-up. But like I said, compared to some of the fighters in the division, he's not going to hold up fairly well if it's just being against the feet. Even if your skill level is quite high, if you're mirror matching an opponent that has equal skill level, you're going to find yourself in for a tough time. So as it stands at the moment, complete domination, and we are now into the championship rounds. And again, I'm going to have such a big stamina advantage coming into these rounds. There's no way I don't instantly get the takedown, and this has just been pure and utter domination from the get-go. I mean, my opponent's not had much answers for the onslaught that's been given. Done his best, and on the feet's had glimmers of hope. Done well to obviously survive all the submission attempts and stay in the fight coming into round 4 and 5. But this is where now you can really ramp up the pressure, because all the fruits of your labour, all the foundations you set in round 1, 2, 3, they're going to be here for you to take. And it's about pushing the gas now and looking to get the finish. You don't just want to lay on someone and get a decision victory. You don't want to, not force any damage, not try and look for the finish, because ultimately using Islam Makhachev, you've got so many tools to get the finish that it'd be a bit silly not to really go for it. And you see here, deny the attempts and go straight for the submission, where in the 4th round he has no stamina. I've already had 3 submission attempts against this opponent, so I'm pretty sure I've got a good way of mirroring his going. You can see I've got an advantage here. But yeah, so I just want to say thank you for all the support on the videos. Hope you did enjoy this video here. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe for more UFC 4 content. And like I said, yeah, Islam is hard to use, but this is definitely how I recommend using him. So thank you for the content suggestion, and I'll see you all next time.